On Tuesday, the commission heard from Marimar Martinez, who courageously shared her experience in her quest for change. Ms. Martinez, as you heard, was shot 5 times by a Border Patrol agent who followed her to the hospital and into her hospital room. Agents came while she was being treated. And then only hours later, that very same day, they took her from the hospital. They arrested her and charged her with assault. And of course, the charges were later dropped because guess what? There was no basis for them in the first place.
She was shot 5 times. Then they followed her to the hospital. Then they arrested her in her bed. Then they charged her with assault. Then they dropped it because there was never a case to begin with. That is not a rogue agent. That is a system that shot someone, cuffed them to a hospital bed, and filed paperwork they knew wouldn't hold. That is what impunity looks like when nobody at the top will stop it. Trump's ICE did that. And the architects, Miller, Noem, Homan, are still in their jobs. Hit subscribe if you want this tracked, because now let's go back to exactly how this operation was built.
Well, thank you very much to Judge Holmes and Judge Castillo, and good morning, everyone. It has been nearly 8 months since President Trump launched Operation Midway Blitz, a military-style assault on Illinois. Throughout the operations of it, our communities and our people were subjected to an unprecedented campaign of harassment, intimidation, and brutality. Trump's masked, uniformed ICE and CBP agents detained innocent American citizens and legal residents, along with people who are undocumented, very few of which fit into a category of the worst of the worst. They used unmarked cars and a Blackhawk helicopter, carried automatic weapons and battering rams to use against our communities and their homes. They deployed tear gas and smoke grenades against peaceful protesters and peaceful crowds and in peaceful neighborhoods. They committed flagrant and egregious abuses of power and force that went unchecked. When none of the supervisors, agency leaders, cabinet secretaries, or the President of the United States was willing to stop these attacks or hold the perpetrators accountable, I created the Illinois Accountability Commission. The commission engaged former prosecutors and active attorneys and experts on law enforcement and immigration to conduct a thorough investigation of Operation Midway Blitz. It collected evidence and a public record of the abuses and breaches of people's rights, and it took testimony of the traumatic impact on our communities. And the commission is recommending actions to pursue justice and to prevent further harm. I want to take a moment just to thank the members of the commission. Of course, I've mentioned the leadership of Judge Ruben Castillo and Judge Patricia Brown Holmes. All of you, the service that you have given to the state of Illinois and your bravery are so much appreciated. I also want to thank the staff of the commission who worked long hours, and all of the staff within my administration who did the same, who contributed to this effort. It makes us all proud that we have public servants willing to stand up, do the right thing, and do the hard work to hold people accountable. Thank you also to the foundations, to the academic institutions, to legal institutions, advocates, and civic leaders and volunteers who devoted resources to this endeavor. This was truly a communal endeavor. And finally, I want to express my profound gratitude to the brave individuals who gave eyewitness testimony. That was hard to do. Over the course of 6 months, the commission conducted 16 in-depth investigations into flashpoint incidents, spoke with nearly 60 eyewitnesses, held 7 private community listening sessions, and reviewed hundreds of hours of video footage, much of it never before seen. Over the course of 5 public hearings, the Commission presented the evidence to the public. In 2 hearings earlier this week, the extent of the investigative work was put on full display for the world. We saw harrowing video evidence of some of ICE and CBP's most egregious abuses of power. We heard independent eyewitness accounts of the terror. We witnessed heartbreaking, powerful testimony from some of the individuals who were the direct target of these agents, and the neighbors and upstanding people who tried to prevent violence. Many of them were swept up by the masked federal agents.
Here's what they documented. This was not rogue agents. This was not isolated bad behavior. Trump designed it. Miller directed it. Noem and Homan executed it. And when people got shot, when a man died, when protesters got tear-gassed in their own neighborhoods, the leaders didn't intervene. They praised it. 16 investigations, 60 eyewitnesses, hundreds of hours of footage. That evidence is now in the hands of multiple state prosecutors and police departments across Illinois. And here is what Pritzker said that Washington should be paying attention to. There is no statute of limitations on trying to kill someone. That case does not expire. The clock is not running out on Marimar Martinez. The clock is running on the people who gave the orders. But there is a second layer to this story. Because while Trump's agents were tearing through Illinois neighborhoods, he was also starting a trade war that hit every single Illinois family at the gas pump. And Pritzker has receipts on that too.
We here in Illinois will bring peace and humanity. Let's begin by stepping back and saying that I think gas prices are now in Illinois up almost $1.40 per gallon as a result of this, war of choice by Donald Trump. So I think it's ironic that the party, the members of the party that supports him and won't criticize him, are now calling for some action to ameliorate the effect that he's having on every Illinoisan who drives or uses gasoline. Don't forget, by the way, the inputs into the products that you buy, many of them, anything made with plastic, for example, has oil in it, or at least at its base. So guess what? The cost of those things has gone up. So this is a broader problem than just a gas price problem. This is a problem of Donald Trump's willingness to go to war, apparently, against what he said when he was running. He's now at war. He's taken us to war. We have people dying on behalf of his adventurism. And we now have an economy that is hurt by virtue of what he's doing. Dan Petrella. Yeah.
Back in 2023, when you were sworn in for your second term, you said that the right to privacy and bodily autonomy demand that we establish a constitutional protection for reproductive rights in Illinois. Sunday is the deadline for the legislation to put a question on the November ballot. Obviously, there's not time left for them to do that. That means this won't have happened in your second term. Do you still stand by that assessment? And if so, why haven't we seen action on that here in Illinois over the past 3 years? And will you make it a priority if you're elected?
Appreciate you. And I don't think there's anybody who would challenge that I have been the most pro-choice governor in the history of the state of Illinois, that we passed the Reproductive Health Act in 2019, that I have made it abundantly clear that if you are seeking refuge from another state where they have outlawed abortion, that we will do everything we can to make available to you the services that you need. So we've done everything that's in our power, and we have enshrined into law in the state of Illinois all of the things that I just said and much more. So what I have talked about is that we need a federal constitutional amendment, and wherever people have an ability to put this on the ballot and where they do not have their rights, and therefore an amendment would reverse and enshrine their rights into the Constitution. We've done it. I think you've seen in 10 states that I've engaged in 10 states to try to help them. These are states where their rights are at risk or they've been taken away entirely. And in, I think, 8 of those 10 states, we're on the verge of it in Nevada, but I mean, we've reversed the prohibition against it in those states. But in Illinois, I don't think anybody feels like this government or this legislature or the state of Illinois is aiming to take away their reproductive rights. Chris Ty. Chris.
Governor, when Mayor Johnson made some maneuvers in January to try to pressure the state's attorney to prosecute, the state's attorney pushed back, concerned that defense attorneys for would-be defendants would use this political maneuvering as a shield for their client. Does that not apply here? Meaning, is this effort, noble as it may be, does it somehow actually work against a prosecutorial effort because there's a political agent at the top of the machine?
When no one is advocating for gathering the evidence, when no one is actually gathering the evidence, and there is danger that that evidence could go away. I'm not talking about the videos that you find online. I'm talking about individual testimonies, for example. Those people could move somewhere or refuse to give their testimony later or be unwilling to put it on the record later. We wanted to make sure, and by the way, this is an independent, yes, it was appointed by me, but trust me when I tell you that the judges and the people who sat on this commission, they came to it with an independent perspective. They wanted to gather evidence. They didn't come to a conclusion. They didn't say in their report, this person is guilty. They did put the evidence together. And if you don't do that and you don't present, there's nothing tainted about gathering evidence and going, as I said, any of you, if you had a crime committed against your person or against your property, you could show up at a police department, at a state's attorney's office, and present to them whatever evidence of that crime. Well, we've simply asked experts, because this was so complex, to gather that evidence. And it's also, I just want to point out, the federal government does not make this easy. And so it was very important that we had terrific staff, attorneys, both in my governor's office as well as at the IAC, to put together this package of evidence and to deliver it so that someone else can make the judgments about whether somebody should be prosecuted or not.
Governor,
Sorry, go ahead, the judge. Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to understand here because I think there's a pressure to try to do this quickly. There's an urgency, right, to wanting to see some resolution. But sources tell me that the prosecutors want to do this the right way. When they have all of the evidence, the governor's saying the feds are not making this easy. They want the full basket of evidence, which they don't have yet. So there's on one side of the ledger, let's do this now. There's a feeling of we want to do this now. And there's the other side of we want to do it when we have all of the evidence to secure a win. How do those two things sort of balance out in your mind?
I'm glad you said in your mind, because I'm going to tell you what my mind says. Because, 25 years of being a judge, 4 years as a prosecutor, all I see, first of all, the premise of your question, rush the judgment, there's no rush. There's no statute of limitations on killing someone or trying to kill someone. You could prosecute that any day. So if the state's attorney wants to look at this for a year, that's up to her. But to say that she's not going to look at it at all, that she's not going to investigate it at all I hear, again, in my opinion, are a bunch of excuses. When the mayor tried to put together a protocol to feed her the evidence, the state's attorney had a problem with that. When there was an effort on the part of individuals to have a special prosecutor appointed, which she could have easily recused herself, stepped aside, let the special prosecutor go in and she or he would take their lumps if that's what's going to happen, she could have done that. But again, she comes back to, well, no one has stepped forward and said they're a victim and complain. Well, Mr. Viegas Gonzalez is not in a position to complain. He's dead. And Ms. Martinez has complained plenty. And she came before us on Tuesday and says she wants accountability. I don't think it could be plainer than that this should be investigated. If it takes 2 or 3 years, that's on the investigator. If a special prosecutor is appointed and she or he takes 2 years, that's fine. There is no rush to judgment, but there should be a judgment about whether or not somebody committed a crime, and that's all we're saying.
Governor Pritzker, a question about prosecutors getting this report. Do you also see a lane for the Attorney General of Illinois, Kwame Raoul's office, to get involved and possibly approve charges?
He already has been involved in cases that have been brought against ICE and CBP, against the federal government, about things that have occurred. So it's not that he's not involved. There's, we've got prosecutors that are now aware of evidence. We've got police departments that are now aware of evidence and have their capability to go prosecute somebody, or at least to investigate, possibly prosecute somebody. And then the Attorney General, of course, is defending us in federal court and in state court, wherever he needs to.
And then a quick follow-up, please. If
Yes,
you don't
sir.
mind, on a different topic. Don Harmon says that they're not going to advance the proposed constitutional amendment in response to issues with the Voting Rights Act. He says he wants to stop and take a look at the issue, so it's not going to be on the ballot this fall. You think that's the right call?
Well, he is not opposing having an amendment. What he is saying is that, number one, we're not going to see any impact of that amendment on Illinois at the moment. It will impact when there is redistricting that takes place in 2031. And so I think he's just saying, let's slow down and make sure that we've got the right language in an amendment, if that's in fact the best way to go about it. Let's let constitutional experts give testimony about perhaps there are ways in which we can protect people's voting rights in law and not necessarily in a constitutional amendment. I don't think he's rejecting the idea of an amendment, just he's opening up the aperture here so that we can make sure and address it. But let me be clear. The leaders of this state, whether we're talking about Senate President Don Harmon, or the Speaker of the House, or the governor of the state, we are going to protect people's voting rights. We are not going to let this stand as if we're now going to let black and brown people and minorities not be represented in the legislature or in the Congress.
Can we follow up on the gas tax thing? Because in 2022, the state moved ahead to suspend the increase for 6 months to help people out when gas prices were going up. Why not do that this year to help people with gas prices being even higher?
Well, I don't disagree that that is, in fact, what we have done in the face of inflation. That's our reaction was, let's temporarily suspend the grocery tax, let's temporarily suspend the gas tax, et cetera, or at least the increase in the gas tax. And we also provided other measures of cost reduction to people. I think it was almost $2 billion of relief that we provided. We're looking for all of those ways to deal with increasing cost of things even now. Very important to me, though, that we make sure and balance all of the broader inflation questions and the question of whether or not we're going to continue to build the roads and the bridges and the airports and the river ports that are funded by the motor fuel assessment. So I really believe that it's worthy of contemplation, but that is not something that we have front and center here. We've got a whole bunch of issues, including reducing the cost of housing in the state, and that's been something that we're trying to usher through the legislature right.
So here is where Illinois stands right now. A woman was shot 5 times, arrested in her hospital bed, and the charges were dropped because there was never a legal basis. A man is dead. Peaceful neighborhoods were tear-gassed. Masked federal agents in unmarked cars ran roving patrols through American cities. And not one architect of that operation has faced a single consequence. The commission documented all of it. 16 investigations, 60 witnesses, hundreds of hours of footage. That evidence is now sitting with prosecutors. The commission was explicit. There is no rush, but there must be a judgment. Someone has to decide whether a crime was committed. That question is now on the desk of every state's attorney in Illinois. And while that accountability fight plays out, Illinois families are paying nearly $1.40 more per gallon because the same president who sent masked agents into their neighborhoods also started a trade war he promised he wouldn't start. Trump's allies in Congress approved every bit of it. No oversight, no accountability, no one held responsible. Miller is still there. Noem is still there. Homan is still there. The architects are still building. The only question left is whether any prosecutor in this country has the spine to go where the evidence points. Because the evidence is public now. The witnesses have spoken. And Marimar Martinez is not going away. Neither is this story. Subscribe, because this is not finished.